So this would not be legal. They're trying to make it all look and feel kind of the same. That's, in my opinion, not how you sell something when it has something unique. You need to focus on the thing that's unique. And if you alienate some people, that's fine.
And you have just lost the board.
I know. I said something like, so what is your game about? And they just said, that's a good question. And I'm like, you should work on that first. Call me back later.
Don't
hit the sort of the same kind. Nope, I'm going there.
No.
I'll give you this one Half-Life Alyx story.
Okay. Hi everyone, welcome to Final V3. I'm Sam, I'm a game developer.
Well, you can hear him really struggling.
Yeah, that's Julian, and he's my worst enemy.
Hi.
And he makes YouTube videos, and today we're talking with Derek, who is Derek Liu, who is an incredibly talented trailer editor. Say hi, Derek.
Hi, Derek.
This is a joke?
He has worked on many games, Psychonauts 2, Half-Life Alyx, Firewatch. What else? God. Sorry, I should have told you there were two. My bad.
No worries. I got there.
Yeah, we always try to throw the guests off guard a little bit. We want to put you on the back foot.
Yeah. Just to hold power.
Exactly.
Well, we don't want you feeling comfortable.
Yeah.
No, it's the last thing that you want on a podcast.
I feel safe now.
Yeah. But hi, you are Derek Liu. You are an incredibly talented and prolific trailer editor. You've done a shit ton of projects that we will say. I would really love to fucking dig into all the nitty-gritty stuff of your process, but what I don't know is, what are you allowed to talk about? Because the gamer in my heart is telling me to just relentlessly drill you about the Half-Life Alyx trailer and use that as the into everything. But
I mean, shocker, that's the one that I will not talk about.
Yeah.
I mean, I can talk in the abstract. For that job, I went to the Valve offices for about 6 weeks to work on that. Like, it was like pretty much, if you count backwards from when that uploaded, just count back 6 weeks. That's pretty much the amount of time that I was working on that.
Holy shit.
And they also let me fly back to, I lived in Los Angeles at the time. They let me fly back and forth to see my cats on the weekends.
Generous.
But then, the weekdays I was in Bellevue working on the trailer with the folks at Valve. So, and the thing that you've heard about an empty room that gets all these tables or desks wheeled in, like, that's totally a thing that happened. And like the trailer team assembled. I mean, I wouldn't feel super good calling myself lead on it, but I was the only person 24/7. That's not healthy.
Right.
8 days, 8 hours a day.
That doesn't stop
working
people.
on the trailer. Like, if I wasn't there working on the trailer, not especially at the beginning, there was like no one working on the trailer.
Yeah.
So I can't say like too much more.
Yeah, it's fun watching you like try and navigate this minefield. I feel like a little guilty.
Yeah.
Forcing you into this territory. But yeah, no, understood. What happens behind closed doors stays there forever until...
I mean, so I did, after working on it, write a like 10,000 word blog post about the whole experience. And then I sent it to my friend at Valve saying, hey, look this over. And he's not really good at following up. So I don't think it's like nefarious, like, oh, Valve's trying to clamp down on the secrets of the Half-Life Alyx trailer.
Yeah.
It's like, people are busy and this is a big thing to have to go through the fine-tooth comb, and just years have passed. And every now and then I noodle him, say like, hey, now would be a good anniversary time. Like, this would be another good anniversary. And this so far. So it's all written out somewhere.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of anecdotes about just working with Valve generally turning like that over time. So yeah, it doesn't sound malicious.
No, it was a very good experience overall. And I don't have to say that. If I thought otherwise, I'd probably just say nothing.
Yeah.
But
for any listeners, a red dot just appeared on
yeah.
No. What can you talk about?
I mean, I feel like I can talk about most of what I do because I'm independent and I'm only shooting myself in the foot if I say something like bad about a client or something like that. But there aren't any things that I can think of other than working on Half-Life where I'm like, no, I shouldn't talk about that ever. Like, after I die, like, I think, because I mostly work with indie game developers and I think they're really chill. Yeah. And if I ask them something like, hey, can I show these debug options from your game in a video that I want to post on TikTok? They'd be like, yeah, sure, fine. Because there aren't those like layers of approval and confidentiality and that sort of thing. So you can ask me about pretty much any trailer that I've worked on.
It's interesting because we started this conversation before recording with you saying that like you've been coming to terms with the idea that every game trailer is largely the same kind of process at this point.
Yeah, I mean, also structurally too. I mean, I made a video on YouTube talking about the act structure of movie trailers. And then I just recently got a comment saying, well, can you make another video breaking it down by genre too? Because those will be totally different. And all I can think is, no, they won't actually be different. Because again, like you say, this is communication and people need to know things in a certain order for them to make any actual sense. And the example I give is there's a really bad way to describe every single game, like to pitch it. So my go-to is Spelunky because I know Spelunky so well. So if you've never played Spelunky, like a really bad way of pitching Spelunky is saying like, oh, in Spelunky, you save cats, there's a jetpack, there's a store, and there's some boss battles, there's sub-boss battles, and there's gems. It's like, okay, I'm picturing nothing about Spelunky if you don't actually know what Spelunky is. So if I said, well, Spelunky is a side-scrolling platformer where you have a whip, 4 hearts, 4 ropes, and 4 bombs. That's all you have at the beginning of every single start of Spelunky. And you're going into a mine where you're trying to eventually get out with lots of treasure. And along the way, you collect treasure, you have to avoid the enemies, and you fight bosses, and you get power-ups at shops to help you through. Like, that makes sense. And in a trailer, you know, you're not working just with words because you have visuals, of course. So there's just a visual of Spelunky being played because of the nature of the game. You can tell it's a side-scrolling platformer, but there are lots of trailers that, because they don't start with gameplay, it's really hard to know what kind of game it is until sometimes 30 seconds in, a minute in, 2 minutes in, because even if it's say a 3D game, a 3D game can be so many different things depending on the camera angle or the animation or something like that. So when I watch a trailer and the first shot is the camera slowly tracking through an empty environment, it's like, okay, is it a first-person game? Is it a third-person game? Is it an isometric game? Is it a puzzle platformer? There's so many things it can be. The only thing I could tell is, okay, these environments are really pretty. But depending on what the next thing is to determine what the game is, that just changes everything. And so this is a long way of saying that trailers do still have to present basic information like upfront in order to be understood. Or if they're not going to talk about gameplay first, they need to talk about the story premise in some way, which that also has to be told in a certain way, just so it makes sense.
And you're working with so little time generally, right? So like you have to be extremely efficient in how you present that information, I would imagine.
Yeah, and also not every genre communicates as quickly as other ones. So if you have a fighting game, 2 big characters on the screen with power bars, okay, got it right away. You know, 3D platformer game, like there's a game I just saw on Blue Sky. It's called Hop Frog, I think. The developers contacted me recently, not recently, a while ago, about maybe consulting on a trailer that we didn't end up working together.
Is that the one that got dropped and
it was the one. This is absolutely not what they want to be known for, so I apologize to the developers.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It was the one where the third line of their tweet was that they were starting a Kickstarter because some shit went down, as it does in the game.
Oh wait, sorry.
Good trailer though.
It's called Big Hops.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they just started their Kickstarter, but you know, a shot from that, you can tell right away that it's a 3D platformer game.
Right.
Yeah.
And the trick is knowing the basic structure, but then knowing all of the, not edge cases necessarily, but all the things that you would adjust in order to make this particular trailer read clearer or more efficiently. Because I've seen people make trailers for games and maybe their shots are just way too short for how much visual information is inside of a shot. And people meanwhile ask me like, well, how long should a shot be? I'm like, that's $1 million question that's dependent on like everything about your game.
Yeah.
You know, if it's a Telltale style game where each scene is like just a story scene and there's no gameplay HUD or something like that, then that will read really quickly because you're just trying to tell story. But if it's, I don't know, or I'm playing Claire Obscure right now, and if you look at their battle scenes, there's just so many HUD elements and there's quick time events and everything going on every which way. So that's a lot to read. So it's just knowing, not necessarily knowing, but experimenting and trying to figure out like, hey, what would work for this particular game.
Yeah, I'd imagine it's a bit of a puzzle for every single project you'd take on.
Yeah, it's a puzzle made out of you take a giant jigsaw puzzle, take out some of the pieces from it, and try to reassemble it into a smaller jigsaw puzzle that looks kind of the same as the big one.
Yeah.
And go.
That's the real thing, is that it's always easy. And I don't understand why it takes 4 to 6 weeks every time I have to fucking commission someone. No.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious. Okay, so as a developer, as someone who wears the developer hat from time to time, how have I fucked up your life and job? Like, how have I made your life harder?
The worst case scenario is when, well, let me start at the beginning. So when I start making a trailer, I'll play as much of the game as possible. So I have this one playthrough, lots and lots of clips. Depending on how long the game is, it's at least that long. Of course, I'll use debug and cheats to get through parts that are difficult. But I have this big playthrough that's all my footage for the rough cut. None of this stuff is going to go in the final trailer. This is just to basically scout out the whole game, figure out what it feels like, see what the experience is, and try to then organize all that footage so then that I have a good map of like every player verb, every enemy, if it's that kind of game, inventory, environments. And the trick is, if I then put in some of those shots into the trailer, then I have to recapture those scenes. If it takes a long time to get back to that part of the game with the game in the state that it was in when I captured it, then that is what ruins my day. So like if I can like also like know where I am. So like I worked on Adventure Pals, made by the people that did Cult of the Lamb, and one of their debug options displayed the level number in the top corner while you're playing, which this doesn't happen in the game. But so I was able to capture with that on for my entire playthrough, and then I can go to the debug options where it says skip to level 1, 5 or 2, 4. And I always know like, oh, this shot was from level 2, 4. I can just go straight there. Whereas if there's other games where, I certainly don't know these games as well as the developers by any measure. And I'm like, oh, this was kind of like, I think this was like the middle of the game. Like I'm looking at my timeline. Okay, what's it called in the debug? Okay, it's called like, 3-AB, dash
the developer
swamp.
just like mashed their keyboard a little bit.
Yeah.
They just wanted to get a file name out there.
And then maybe it'll have like a bunch of checkpoints in there, if that. And then the checkpoints like won't make sense or something like, wait, I did checkpoint 4, but then I did checkpoint 2 just then, but somehow checkpoint 2 comes after 4 or something like that. And then it's like, I need this one particular enemy too. How do I get them? And maybe like they're only in that one spot, which that could be fine if you have a good quick load or quick save or something like that. But if it's like, no, you got to start all the way at the beginning of the level, then you fly back to that part of the level to get them again, then it can be a whole ordeal. I worked on some trailers for Dead Cells, which had great debug tools. I could just go to a section of level, click my thumbstick, it pulled up this whole pop-up of every single enemy and every weapon. I could just click it, respawn a zombie, and then try to do another check. And if I didn't get it, crap, do it again, crap, do it again.
Sounds so nice.
Mm-hmm. And there's one game, which I won't name, but it took me like 2 to 3 minutes to redo a shot, like to get back for a chance at doing the shot. And oh my God, I just want to tear my hair out. It was awful.
It's really funny hearing all of this coming from you as someone who often has to do like collection of footage for games as well, but never has access to any of the debug tools.
God, no, shoot me.
Yeah. No, I don't enjoy it either. I feel you on that front.
Oh my God. I love that you went also straight for tools, because the reason that you saw Julian literally sinking back in his chair, like a chasm was opening beneath him, was like, this is one of the things that we talk about really often, is because it's part of my job to make tools for creative people to use, and it's part of his job to use them. I'm gonna be real. I was mostly just getting flashbacks to having to re-record the same level of a game 7 or 8 different times, and being completely unable to manipulate the checkpoint system and having no save states. But that too. The best debug I had was Splunky 2 is fantastic because it had a replay system.
So I could just reload a level. So if you watch the Splunky 2 gameplay trailer, there's an opening shot in like the Volcana area. And I don't know how many takes I did of that, but I could just reload and do it again, reload, do it again. And that replay function was also cool because I could have it replay most of the way and it would do exactly what I did before. And then I could press escape or something like that. And then I could then resume gameplay. And like, so also, I just worked on Skin Deep pretty recently, which also had, it didn't have good debug in that, like, it was like, oh, this is made for retaking things. But I don't know since when, but they always have, Blendo games, they always have console access, even in the retail version. And there are lots of things that you could do through the console. And so what I did when I first started that project, because Skin Deep is like immersive sim with so many systems, so many items, this is something I learned from my friend Steve Lejeune, who has worked for Evil Geniuses doing like the Rogue Prince of Persia. I did a video with him on Kickstarter about using a Stream Deck to hook up debug options. So not the Steam Deck, the Stream Deck with all the little buttons on it. So I programmed my Stream Deck before I started working on it to do things like load this level, spawn this weapon. And there are some things that for the really intricate shots, like the opening shot of Skin Deep, which is actually like 4 or 5 shots stitched together, I needed very specific weapons and game states to start a take. So I programmed all those things I needed in just one button onto my Stream Deck. So then when I retaked, I just press that button. It's like spawn, like quick pick up. Okay, ready to go. And it was great.
This is
That's
killing me.
fun.
This is killing me.
Don't you see? It could be so much better. Give Sam
dude.
work.
Yeah, Julian, just check out all of these really incredible tools that would save you hours of work you never get access to.
I mean,
I
awesome.
actually designed this specifically to torment Julian. So thank you so much for helping with that there.
Yeah, I mean, for the Stream Deck thing, you just need to have the ability to use either hotkeys or a console.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Commands.
Skin Deep is interesting because that is a fucking complicated game to try and like tell a coherent short story about. How the fuck do you even start that when you're sitting down for your first playthrough?
Yeah. Well, I played, like I said, I play as much as I can. And then I talked to the developers. I talked to Brendan and Laura about what they want. And I also, like I said, I make it like inventory of everything that's in the game, which for Skin Deep was unusually long. Like I just keep scrolling down, like, oh my god, this would be great too. This would be great too. And there's this GIF that I use from the movie X with Vin Diesel, which I'm not like a particular fan of that movie, but I worked as an assistant editor at the movie trailer house that did the trailers for X because Vin Diesel's fraternal twin brother is a trailer editor that works there called Geronimo Productions. His name's Paul. So Paul did the trailer for X. But anyway, so that's why I'm familiar with this one particular shot where the camera is just gliding over this arsenal of like guns and missiles and stuff like that. And then it ends on Vin Diesel in the car pointing to like the Q character, Q like James Bond. And Vin Diesel says, I want all of that in here. And like, that's like my job. And that's what I felt like with Skin Deep because there's just so much stuff that could possibly go in.
It's a clown car scenario.
I remember seeing that trailer a little while ago. It felt like there was a lot of legwork in terms of just like alluding to the stuff in the game rather than taking the time to explicitly detail much, just because of the virtue of the kind of game it was.
Yeah, the usual thing that happens to me is I work on a game that just has just so much dialogue that, of course, it can't, only a tiny fraction can go in. And Skin Deep was one of the only games that I worked on where it was just so many game mechanics for me to try to fit in. Usually it's like, okay, there is these 2 to 3 game mechanics or something novel about this game that are the thing that will distinguish this game. And I mean, Skin Deep also had lots of game mechanics that wouldn't necessarily distinguish it, but just all of it added together just turns into this experience, which when I talked to Brendan and Laura, the main points were not necessarily about mechanics, except for the Skull Saver, which is unique to Skin Deep, where you kill the enemy and then their head pops off, and then you have to take the head and throw it out into space, whether it's through a toilet or out the airlock or what the trash.
I remember
chute.
you. I do remember you taking special care to show that off.
Yeah, because that doesn't exist in any other game.
Right.
So that was one particular game mechanic that we had to show. But otherwise, it was mostly like, this is Die Hard in space. It's immersive sim. It's funny and campy, but everything is taken very seriously. And there's story, there's spoken dialogue, which is also new for Blendo games. And of course, you're saving cats. Got to show that, of course.
Yeah.
And they also did mention that the fact that you can look really closely at every single inventory object and look at the little fine print where it says like, this air freshener is explosive or something like that. It's worded better than that. But those were like sort of the pillars of the direction. And then it was up to me to just try to, within that umbrella, figure out something that was cohesive and told a story, but also didn't spoil too much of the story, which hopefully it didn't.
Was Die Hard in space is that something that you came to, or was that something that they came to you with?
No, that's something that they said 100%. I mean, one of the game mechanics is stepping on glass with your bare feet, then having to remove the glass from your feet. So it's like obvious homage to Die Hard. It's kind of no avoiding that one. It's like, what other media can you think of that's about walking through glass, or at least having a scene where you walk through glass?
My hobbies are my own. Speaking of walking through glass.
Nice segue. I know where he's going too. Wow.
No, but so I'm really curious, like why trailer editing? Why is this for you specifically the thing that has hooked you? Is it just like the opportunity was there at the right time, or is there something inherently satisfying about like this short form, super condensed idea communication challenge obstacle course? Like,
I don't know if I could actually get like super deep into the why, because like, I mean, so I can say that when I was a kid, we always got to the movies on time so we could see trailers because they're so much fun to watch.
Oh wow, you're the opposite of me. That's crazy.
No, I'm on Derek's side. I get to microdose movies.
Nowadays, I think there's a few too many. My favorite theater in Los Angeles was the ArcLight, rest in peace, because they only ever showed 3 trailers, which that's perfect.
Oh, that's so nice.
You know, 3 trailers, not a half an hour where you've forgotten what movie you're seeing.
What, you don't like it when like a famous actor comes on and does like a giant PSA? Wow, that was a deep time. Dude, you can answer movie trivia about a different movie before the movie you want to watch.
See, there's a tangent. I made a silly video where I took the Nicole Kidman AMC video and I changed it so she's watching her own movies. She's like, oh, you know, cinema's great. Meanwhile, like Cold Mountain's playing on the theater. But yeah, I've always liked watching trailers. And I remember when I was in college, I went to NYU for film, which initially I went for photography, but I transferred to film in the sophomore year. And I was a teaching assistant at a multimedia class. We were making, it's like DVD menus or something, and DVDs. And one of the guest speakers was this editor. His name's Adam Agard, who worked at Geronimo Productions. And I'm like, oh my God, our trailer editor's coming! Like, I would have never known I could make contact with people who make trailers, because a lot of people don't realize that trailer making is just its own industry. A lot of people think like, oh, but doesn't the film editor make it? And the answer is no. They're busy making the movie. And even film editors will say, get a trailer editor. It's a different skill set.
Yeah.
But I remember in that class, when it came time for questions, the professor was like, anyone have questions? Like, no one in the class had questions. I'm like, what are you doing? And I'm like, ooh, please pick me. And I'm like, where'd your sound effects come from? And I later on, I interned at that company.
Oh, wow.
It's called Geronimo Productions, but it's not spelled the way you think it is. It's a combination of the names Giacomo and Ron. Huh. So it's Ja, Ron, Amo, not Geronimo like Geronimo. But that was a really fun job I did for 3 years. And trailers are a lot of fun. They're short and they just way things sync up, because like trailers are one of the only narrative formats in film where it's acceptable, whether or not it's, you know, good or not. It's acceptable to just have like everything in sync, like all the sound effects, all the music. Like,
yeah.
If it happens in movies, it's like Baby Driver or like there's like a scene or something like that where it's kind of like this is the thing, but like if this was the whole movie, unless it's Baby Driver, then it's like that's a bit much. But in trailers it's like, oh, if a light turns from green to red, well of course that's going to have a rise sound effect and then a whoosh and then a hit on that, and they're just a lot of fun. And also I just don't have enough time to rewatch movies all the time, so sometimes when it's like a really good trailer I can just watch the trailer and just sort of get a bit of that experience. And when it's really good, it's just, they're really fun.
Yeah.
And they can be very emotional too. Like there's some movies where I watch the trailer and I'm like, yes, I'm so in on this romance. I feel you, Hugh Jackman in The Fountain. I'm so sad for you. Oh my God. And I watch The Fountain. I'm like, I don't know if this is my thing, but I watched the trailer again. I'm like, oh God, like tears streaming down my face.
If you'll allow a non sequitur, you were learning how to do DVD movies in college? I gotta know more. I'm sorry, what? Is that a thing?
I'm trying to remember exactly what the crux of the whole thing, because it wasn't always, I think they pivoted to using like DVD Studio Pro to probably almost like a game in a way. Like, because, you know, a DVD menu is just like, you know, sort of hyperlinks, which goes to another page and audio and visual can play.
Yeah.
So I think that it wasn't always using DVD Studio Pro or about DVDs, but they pivoted because maybe that software was easier or something. I'm trying to remember what they used before. They might have used like Macromedia Director, maybe.
Wow.
I think that's what it was. I can't be 100% sure, but that sounds right to me because it's a similar sort of format where like Director is like a CD-ROM, right? Or it can be. And it's basically functionally kind of similar to what a DVD can do. So I don't remember. I think it was for a film class, but I don't remember exactly what the projects the students were working on within that format.
That's so fucking funny. Dude, I remember cracking DVD Studio Pro on my computer to try, because I was like really into the Star Wars DVD menus. And I was like, I bet I could make a game out of it. And I couldn't, but I cracked it. So
I mean, people did back then, though, right? I mean, like the DVD games that came on the DVDs were made using that software more often than not. If I had to guess, right?
Yeah. I mean, one of my biggest job interview bombs involved DVD Studio Pro because it was one of the first things after college.
Oh, yes.
And I think, so DVD Studio Pro 1 was awful. It was like really bad. Mm-hmm. And DVD Studio Pro was so much better, which I think they just like bought someone else's software and
the classic.
Called it DVD Studio Pro. But so in the job interview, they asked me about DVD Studio Pro 1. Like, what do you think about it? And I'm like, oh, I love it. I can do blah, blah, blah. This is great. And like, I don't even remember what they looked like, but I can just feel their disappointment thinking about this story. Because like, of course, that's the wrong answer. It sucks. DVD Studio Pro 1 sucks. That should have been my answer. But I was just like, well, you know, I just want to be agreeable.
Yeah.
But it's fine. I don't think I really wanted the job anyway. But that's me justifying in retrospect, like 25 years later or something like that.
Listen, we've all been there. I'm curious also now to like loop back to what you were saying about, you know, trailers that you will go back to and watch as like independently valuable, because I feel like trailers as a thing I have seen get maligned as like this purely commercial vehicle.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious what trailers you felt have had like an artistic impact on you personally as more than just, you know, ticket.
Here's the thing is like people malign trailers, people still watch them. They still get bajillion views. And then like when a trailer really hits, like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. I'm so hype. and then like, because people are very complicated feelings about trailers. And if it's something that maybe they weren't interested in already, they'd be like, oh, the whole medium of trailers is BS. They're so spoilery, which I think that they're less spoilery than ever compared to old trailers. But
oh yeah.
To answer your question though, I really like, I do like the trailer for The Fountain. That's a really good one. I really love the trailer for Across the Universe. I've never seen it, the movie, actually. So it didn't work on me in that way, but I love that trailer. And that was one I was thinking about a lot when I did one of the trailers for Stray Gods, which is the role-playing musical. It's like a Telltale style game, but all the dialogue scenes are musical. Not all the dialogue scenes, but the like pivotal story scenes are songs.
Adding that to my list right now.
So basically the way they made it, so its music is directed by Austin Wintory and like all-star cast like Laura Bailey, Troy Baker, and the way that I'm digressing. But the way that game works is there's single song could play out like in 3 minutes in the game, but because of all the variations of the dialogue and things that happened before, there could be like 45 minutes of music for that one song to account for all the different choices that you've made. And as far as I understand, like they just did it live as far as singing, like as they would with any other voice session where the actor shows up into the booth and they have this like Excel sheet of things. Like, okay, this is what we're working on today. And of course they have like, I bet it took longer, but still, it's unthinkable the effort it would take to make something like that.
Yeah.
But some more trailers that I really liked to go back to. I really love the trailer for The Thin Red Line. It's a really good one. It's like 3 minutes long.
What was that?
The Thin Red Line, which that one's also interesting because probably a lot of people don't remember this, but the first trailer before that trailer was just like the worst way to sell The Thin Red Line. Like it was sort of like action-y, and there's a scene where I think the music was all like drums, like dun, 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 dun. It's like it's The Thin Red Line, which if you haven't seen it, it's like very slow and sort of voiceover, ethereal, sort of introspective movie. And I just remember there's this one scene I almost like actually laughed when watching the trailer in theaters, where there's drum music, and it's like this one shot in the movie where some soldier is like drumming something with whatever he's holding, and they like synced it up to that. I'm like, come on. I know what you're doing. And I'm sorry if like, I mean, I'm guessing whomever was doing that because as far as the editor, they were doing that because they were told to do that. I don't think the editor was thinking, oh yeah, this is the way we sell Thin Red Line. Someone in that.
It's a World War II movie, right?
Yeah. And someone in that conversation said like, ooh, how do we sell this? I don't know, introspective, heartfelt drama, that's hard to sell, but what if we just kind of jazz this up a little bit?
What if it was awesome? Yeah. Think about it.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's really funny to look at like, fuck, Julian hasn't seen season 2 yet, so maybe you can join me in shaming him. But the trailers for Andor, which is like...
I was hoping you would say Andor.
Yeah, where it's like, fuck, you watch this and it's like, it's very contemplative and horrifying at times, but then in the trailer, it's like... I was just posting on Blue Sky the other day, and I just put like on top of the post, like, what would you do if you had $1 million? And the thing I wrote underneath that was like, well, duh, I'll just make 8 trailers for every single story arc of Andor plus 1 trailer for each season. That's what I would do if I had $1 million. That's what you do, right? It's like, I don't have time to do fan trailers because those Andor trailers, I think the first one was actually like for the first season was actually pretty good. Mm-hmm. But the thing is with Andor, and the thing that people who love Andor usually come down to is saying like, oh God, I never thought I'd have so much fun just watching like conversation scene in a Star Wars movie or a Star Wars series. It's like just people talking about trade deals or something like that, or just these things that like on paper they're really banal, but when you're watching it in the context of the show, it's like, oh yeah, this is the juice. As opposed to like other Star Wars, it's like, oh no, lightsabers, that's the juice, of course.
Right.
And there are certainly amazing action scenes in Andor, but they're only great because of that story in between and the characters and everything that happens like leading up to that moment that makes that moment feel like so pivotal. Whereas a lot of sort of more action forward stories, like maybe they need some more of that support in there somehow. But yeah, Andor, the trailers for season 2, I just watch those and think like, okay, this is very well made for what they were told to do.
Yeah.
Which is like action, and we'll get a cover of this song, and the song's like, the revolution starts now, explosion.
I'm so sick of that trope,
it's like,
man.
I'm like a sicko, and I love that trailer just because of how weird of a swing it is.
Yeah.
But it definitely doesn't sell like the amount of thought and dialogue that supports that show.
There's the thing is that like, even though that direction is like for a more mainstream audience, like this is broadly appealing, you're still just filing off all the corners and making it look like everything else. Like if you're not being really put that trailer side by side with like all the other Star Wars TV series, like you have to just like kind of see past the editing in order to see like what makes this thing different, because they're trying to make it basically all look and feel kind of the same, which that's, in my opinion, not how you sell something when it has something unique. When it has something unique, you need to focus on the thing that's unique. And And if you alienate some people, that's fine.
And you have just lost the board with that.
Yes,
last
I know. But like, because like I think long term.
Yeah,
I think like really long term because I'm here like defending
the board
medium
is leaving the room now.
I know. Right?
I'm still here.
I'm like, look, if people just like distrust trailers, you need to win back their trust by being honest about what things are. And so then when they see the movie, like, oh yeah, that's what I thought I was going to get when I saw that trailer. Because a lot of people, their experience isn't that. Like, talking about musicals, I talk about this a lot. Hollywood is deathly afraid of admitting they made a musical, at least in the marketing department.
I had no idea Sinners was going to be like half of a musical until I saw it.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like, yeah.
I would put that not quite in the same territory.
Yeah,
but,
no, it's not one-to-one, but it just felt like a relevant example.
But yeah, music is like super important in Sinners, but it's not like, I don't know, The Greatest Showman, where Hugh Jackman's going to start singing at some point. But like most musical trailers for movies, what they do is they put all the dialogue scenes that they can do to make it look like a quote, like just normal movie, not non-musical movie, not normal, because what's normal? And they take like the biggest track, and that's like the backing music for the last third of the trailer. And maybe there'll be a little bit of a dance scene that's in the montage, which can kind of allude to being musical, but maybe that's just dance that happens within the context of this film where it's like a jazz club or something like that.
Yeah.
And like, or the Color Purple musical, the title cards sort of try to hint at it. It's like a bold new take on a classic story. It's like, bold new take, that's a musical. Just say it's a musical. And like, so that was one of my goals with the Stray Gods trailers. Like of course we're going to be upfront that it's a musical, but I wanted to show it's a musical. That's the hook. And also I wanted it to be so then that you could just watch the trailer straight through and feel not exactly that you listen to only one song, but to have it just like flow nicely from one song to the next. So then you could just enjoy watching this like 2-minute trailer or something like that over and over again. Because a lot of times when the musical trailers do put music in, it's more of like, okay, we're gonna put this song, then we're gonna like fade it out or like cut, and then we'll start up a new song, and it doesn't flow.
Yeah.
It's just like a little bit of a medley. And that's always really disappointing to me because, which I also understand, it's really freaking hard to cut 3 songs together if they all have lyrics and different musical styles. But like, I've seen it done well. So that's the thing that I want to see more. A Star is Born with Lady Gaga, another great trailer with lots of like songs with lyrics in them.
If you'll allow me to backtrack a little, I'm curious. Whenever it comes to the extra work that comes from syncing music to a trailer, because again, this is something that in what I do, I have to be really conscious of how I can sync up music to things. I don't have the luxury of talking to the people who made that music basically ever. It's a real challenge, and so I wonder what that conversation looks like between you and who you're working with in terms of like trying to pitch them that no, this extra work to get everything synced up is worth it, especially if you need help from them to make that happen.
So I try to make it as easy as possible. And usually what ends up happening is I have the music from the game, or maybe even work in progress from the game, and I try to make the trailer as best as possible with what I have. And a lot of times what happens is the last music cue doesn't have like a climax at the end. It just will sort of continue to loop.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll ask the composer to can you just add an ending to this song? and I'm even really flexible with the timing of my cuts. I'll just say, look, if you need to fit another little bit phrase there to make this actually work, because I just hacked your music together in Premiere at 60 frames a second, whereas you're working like samples or whatever, that's fine. I'll adjust my cut to you. Which, I mean, if I work with like trailer music production people, like that's their job, they will always come back. Everything synced exactly to my cut. I don't have to touch a frame, which, they've refined that skill set, but I know that's its own thing. So if I don't need to make them do that and it can make the music better, then I'm fine adjusting. So it's usually not too much of a problem. I mean, for Stray Gods, it's basically exactly the way I cut it. And Austin smoothed out the transitions, maybe adjusted the instruments that were in there or the vocals. But it's pretty much like I cut it, just it sounded rougher.
Yeah.
That is honestly really surprising. I would have expected it to be a little bit more difficult based on like just how in-depth that kind of work can get. But I mean, I guess you're doing the heavy lifting on that front in order to make it easy for everyone else then?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I'm used to just taking a piece of music and just kind of like bending it to my will.
Yeah.
For better, for worse, and if it doesn't really work too well, just put a little whoosh sound underneath it.
Yeah. It's amazing what you can get away with just like syncing something to a someone's speech or throwing a sound effect in somewhere.
Worst case scenario, there's like one person in the world cringing when they watch it, who's the composer, which I'm always apologetic if I can't get them to work on it with me. But it's not, I don't know, it's not difficult, but
it's a skill.
It's a skill that you're fine, and you figure it out when someone tells you, "Hey, we need to take 1 second out of this trailer." We need to take 2 seconds out of this trailer, or we need to change the music, God forbid, the worst note.
Oh, God.
And then you just redo everything, which thankfully in games that doesn't happen very often at all, which is one big reason I'm in games, because that sort of note is just commonplace in the movie trailer industry. And then
that sounds horrible. And
you might not even finish the trailer, because in the movie trailer industry, if you're working in there, if like 10% of your work ever sees the light of day, then that's pretty good. Whereas in games, like, don't tell the games people this, but you can farm out to multiple places at the same time, which I think they just don't. I mean, because it's so expensive already. But in movies, that's commonplace, where you have this big blockbuster film and you give it to like 6 trailer houses, and you just look at them all and say, no, I don't like that one. Okay, thanks. This one, I like this one. Or sometimes this has even happened where like, ooh, I like the beginning of your trailer. I like the middle of your trailer. I like the end of your trailer. Ooh, you put them all together.
Right.
It's
of course.
It's a thing.
Yeah. I really like that, unleashing Frankenstein's monster strategy. I bet that feels really good for all 3 of those.
Yeah. But like, I'm sure it feels great then to get that finish when you actually do it. But like in games, like I can think of like 2 trailers that I've done a lot of work on that just never saw the light of day out of how many years I've been doing this. I'm doing this like 10 years.
Yeah.
So, movies are super prestigious, way more views and everything like that. And people will be a lot more interested to hear that you made the trailer for Black Panther than Skin Deep. But it's fun. I get to work with cool people, and that's kind of it. It's fun. It's fun, and you get to work with cool people. 10 out of 10.
That's Derek Liu's self-career accolades trailer right there.
And I don't have to use Unity or Unreal.
Yes. Yes.
Christ, had that coming. I have like 2 things that I am curious about that are kind of like unrelated to the rest of our conversation in like a direct segue way. One of them being, as you mentioned, you've been doing this for a long fucking time. Are there any like disaster stories that you can break the seal off of at this point? Is it all required? Like, is there anything you can anonymize and tell the story of? Because those are always fun.
This one is kind of fresh, but I won't name which game it is.
Okay.
Which I don't actually care that much, because I'm never going to work with them ever again, because it's awful. There's this one I was working on where we were working on the color grade of the trailer, which I don't usually do a lot of that because I want it to just look like what the game was going to look like when you're playing it at home. And this client, they asked me to make the shot more high contrast. So I made it more high contrast and I sent it back to them. And they said, no, that's not quite right. Can you make it more high contrast like the teaser trailer was? Which I didn't do the teaser trailer. A friend of mine actually did. And I look at the teaser trailer. I'm like, this looks really low contrast. Like, this is like really like kind of muddy looking. Do they think low contrast means high contrast? So then I'm like, okay, I'm going to send them 2 versions. One I'm going to label high contrast, or I might just been like label them like A and B. But one of them was high contrast. One of them was low contrast, like just really muddy.
Yeah.
And they like the one that was really muddy. I'm like, okay,
cool, great.
They're flipped.
Great.
Yeah, same client also asked me to like make it more cinematic at some point.
And in fairness, I knew what I meant when I told you that. So
that's just no.
How did that manifest?
and also like it wasn't a low paying job, but it was lower than what it should have been for the sort of tier of like game development it was in, like team size or something like that. Like, you know, I think the really, really low paying jobs a lot of times are just the worst, because to them that's a lot of money, but to you it's like, this is like worse than minimum wage.
Right.
But they still like will micromanage everything, because like there it's such a big deal. Like, oh my god, I'm spending $500 on this trailer. And for this one, it was kind of like the $500, but for the sort of level of not that bad, but it was kind of close. And okay. No, let me. I'm gonna spill more. I'm gonna spill more. They're never gonna listen to this. Okay. So we were working with. I tried working with their game music. Like I said, you know, working with the game music, and it's not really working that well. It's not very cinematic. It's not very trailer-like. I almost did it. Yeah. I did it. Then I caught myself. But it didn't sound like trailer music. Didn't have a good climax. So basically, they asked me to use some temp music, and of course, this probably know where this is going. So
I really hope
I got
I
some
don't.
like trailer music that it sounds trailery, and with the understanding that the composer was going to go back and just replace this, do their own thing,
Don't
hit the sort of the same kind. No, I'm going there.
No,
we'll hit the same sort of kind of beats, and like, okay, and I've done this before. Temp music, replace it,
standard,
totally different track. It fits the flavor of the game and everything. And so we do that. Well, I do that version. It's like, great. Okay, let's send it to composer. Composer comes back. I'm listening to it. This is the exact same track with like slightly different instruments. And I'm like, so this would not be legal. I don't want you to get sued. And like, at some point they said like, do we have like malfeasance insurance? Like they're saying this in Discord, like with their producer person. And I'm like, what the fuck? You're gonna. I'm like, I don't want to like, and this is a music company I've used before, like the temp music that I got it from.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to piss these people off.
Yeah.
And like, eventually,
imagine how the composer of that temp track would feel if they find out.
Then I kind of like forced their hand a little bit. I'm like, okay, what if I just ask the music company, what would it cost to do a cover of one of your tracks? Maybe that would be cheaper. And like the music company's like, would be cheaper, just pay us the money than to get a composer to redo the whole thing again. And so like now that they know this is going on, this conversation is happening. So eventually they just ended up paying for the track or something like that.
Great.
But it was, oh my God, I was like sweating. I was like, oh my God, I'm so stressed out. And like, how do I approach this? And like, there was like a production manager person who I think was like, did as good a job as they could as like the middle person in this, but like it was really uncomfortable. And that was like, that they're absolutely never working with them ever again. Yeah. It was, I'm like sweating now, remembering it.
That's so fucking wild.
I'm like, just be cool.
I'm just, oh my God. It was worse than I thought.
I feel like I'm leaving out something too.
I thought you were just going to say, oh, they didn't change the music. I can't believe that it was worse than I was expecting.
It's worse. It was worse.
They made a little legal pipe bomb.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
I think I went back and forth with them like 3 or 4 times, being like, "Are you sure? Are you sure? We could just do this. We could blah blah blah." Yeah. And I think that, like to their credit,
so anyone listening, don't do that.
Yeah, to their credit, at one point they just set up a call to basically like to check in on me. I'm sure they could sense like, and I was like screenshotting Discord messages and everything, like just to like cover my ass.
Yeah.
Be like, I need evidence of this just in case. And
oh, what a nightmare.
So bad.
Yeah.
My friends know who I'm talking about.
Yeah. We won't push. Yeah. So the other question that I had was just totally tangential to that. Because we're talking about trailers as like separate from the media that they're about, kind of. It's built on this thing. It's meant to sell this thing, but it also is meant to make its own kind of statement.
Yeah.
And you talked about the new GTA 6 trailer.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought that the reaction to your comments was interesting because it felt like there was a lot of people interpreting what you were saying as like, I shouldn't be excited about getting to see more GTA 6, which is not what you were saying, because you were doing like we're looking at the trailer as a thing and how the thing is built.
Yeah. The pushback that I saw mostly was people saying like, "Oh, you're just saying the trailer should have more spoilers in it? Like typical trailer editor, I'm fine it doesn't have more plot in it." And I'm like, there's a way to not show the plot, but make it interesting.
Yeah, you can allude to the plot without actually showing it.
I made a whole video essay about A24's movie trailers. They do great trailers where you watch it and you have an idea of what the story is, but you don't actually know what the plot points are. Because there are movie trailers, which I think this is less common nowadays, but like if you go to late 90s, early 2000s trailers, which is like when I was an assistant, like it was like spell every single plot point. Like if you watch the trailer, if you want a more modern version, if you watch the trailer for The Invisible Man, the Elizabeth, what's her name from Handmaid's Tale? Anyway, it's the newest Invisible Man movie, and you watch the most recent trailer, and it does feel like plot point. Like, okay, I've seen every single thing. But, you know, if you watch the A24 movie trailers, you get like a basic premise, and you'll see lots of scenes from the movie, which you can still kind of figure out the vibe and what's the general crux of the film, but you don't actually know exactly what happens. Whereas when you have a trailer that is like, well, and then this happened, and this happened, therefore this, and then this. And well, because of that, and that's not what I'm talking about. Like, I'm sure there's a way to make that GTA 6 trailer where we don't know the plot, but we know like the characters or a little bit of the premise. Because like right now we got nothing. We have a couple, they do crime, they love each other. Like that's it. Okay, great pitch, guys.
Yeah.
Which, you know, I've seen people say like, whoa, that's a new thing for GTA, where you have the girlfriend who's not like a total pain in the butt. It's like, oh, high watermark for GTA.
Yeah.
Which like that says something, I suppose, more about GTA or AAA games, where it's like this like really, really low bar of like, we have a couple, they love each other. And that's different in the context of game where you destroy like the whole city with your car driving around like a mad person.
The thing that I'm really, really interested in here is also specifically that gulf in like the way that you as a trailer editor would look at that trailer being like a different lens than the way that a player would and a GTA fan specifically would look at that trailer. I'm really curious, like, is there anything that you wish that you could impart towards people who were just, you know, ordinary people watching trailers?
The thing that I came down to, I wrote like a whole review on my website recently, and the thing that felt really true when I wrote it afterwards, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense, is the GTA trailer feels like it has lots of information but no feeling to it.
Yeah.
Like these are raw. This is like, we've released a whole bunch of raw gameplay to you, and if they put that out as B-roll and told you some of the music tracks that are going to be in the game, I feel like it would be kind of the same.
Yeah. Because like the best trailers or like, you know, previously on type of segments, they're kind of like mood pieces, right? Like, and they're supposed to give you the idea of what you can expect to feel.
Yeah. And it just feels very raw. It feels like they've laid out the basic ideas that they want to convey, but then they didn't develop it further to make it actually feel and look good. Because like you can see some inkling of their concept, which is like, okay, we're going to intercut their crime versus their non-crime life and see that contrast. But nothing in the editing actually contrasts, because either the shots have too much sort of filler in between them, or they're just not edited in a way that makes it feel like purposeful, like parallel scenes happening. Like there's like a little bit, there's a scene where she jumps into his arms, and there's a scene where they're jumping onto like a truck. But like the way it's done, it's like, oh, I see what you're going for there, but it didn't work. Yeah. And like there's just certain things that you could use to build some dramatic irony in there. For example, like there's a shot where they're like, it's new beginnings. And you could, if you put directly after that shot, you know, hands up in the air, you know, that would be an ironic juxtaposition there. But it's the total opposite of that, where it's like hands up in the air, and there's some blah, 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 and then to new beginnings, and then we move on to other things. Like that's like just like one example in there of like a way we could actually contrast these things, as opposed to they're so loosely edited together. We don't see that the editor is actually comparing them. Yeah. At least I don't feel that way.
It almost feels like a rough cut.
It does.
Like it feels like it was made in haste.
Also, just to be super, super clear, all of us are on the outside on this. None of us know what happened or anything.
Yes.
So like as a developer, when I watched that trailer, there was a part of me that was like, this came out around the same time as a delay announcement. It's possible that that could have like affected the trailer editor's ability to spend a lot of time.
That was my thought as well, is that
Yeah.
it felt like we got to get something out here, otherwise people are going to be mad at
Again,
us.
we have no idea whether that happened or not.
It's possible, but like knowing how much scrutiny can go in like every single shot of a trailer, especially I'm sure at AAA level, where who knows how much of it is actually finished. You know, when you get into like the bigger budget things, it can become a situation where it's like, you know, we've locked down this shot list. These is exactly what we're showing. All right, artists, swarm, and, you know, make this shiny.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I can't imagine that being done in haste. I can imagine edit being done in haste, but
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I was figuring, is that it's...
so, but yeah, I could see how someone could theorize that's what happened. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Rockstar, like they have their own internal video team, which, because I know I actually interviewed for a job like years and years and years ago, which actually I bombed that job interview too.
DVD Studio Pro again.
You kept bringing up TVD Studio
Yeah, it was
Pro.
just DVD Studio Pro, just sinking my career here and there. I should have learned after the first time. But yeah, just the trailer, it's very loose, and the story scenes, like they don't connect very well, and even just that opening sequence before he picks up Lucia at the prison, like it's really long. Even just that first opening shot with the landlord,
Yeah.
it's not interesting. And the only thing I can think of is like, well, we're GTA, people are going to just be focused on his skin and how shiny it looks or something like that, which
It is pretty shiny.
it is. And the game looks amazing for an open world game.
I would be lying if I didn't say that, you know, one of my main focuses watching the trailer was just like, well, there's really good graphics.
Yeah.
Wow.
It is.
It is. They are. And
It accomplishes that at least.
just like-
every shot is beautiful, but it feels like that's the extent of what it's trying to show. Is like, look how pretty this is. You can go here soon.
yeah. And like as a trailer fan, it just feels like such a missed opportunity. It's like you have all the money in the world. It's just like,
Yeah.
like for me, an ideal world, people just watch the trailers from teaser to launch trailer and then immediately play the game.
Yeah.
And that all like works as this experience, but it just they're fine, doesn't matter. I'm just cranky trailer editor being like, it could have been better.
Yeah.
It's
It's when you work in something for a long time, you like tune a sense of, and you become opinionated and curmudgeon-y about, you know, whatever aspects of it that you care the most about. And it is fun as an exercise to try and understand things more, to apply that.
And, you know, again, I'm a trailer fan, so I appreciate seeing good work. And also, it's just kind of interesting because Rockstar's position's always been like, you know, game ships when it's finished. And just to have like this one aspect of their game production, like making the trailer, be like, you know, just put that out.
Yeah.
that feels less considered.
Yeah.
Which I think it's kind of amazing because that's something that is very common in like indie games where it's like, oh crap, we got into wholesome. We don't have a trailer yet. Who can put this together?
Yeah.
Or I'll just ask or just hear anecdotally online, like, how long do you spend on a trailer? Like, I spent a day or two. I'm like, oh, God. I don't know what I can barely finish like all the iterations of the end slates in one day.
Yeah.
Where it's like PlayStation, Steam, and Xbox. You know, I got to change the legal lines. Like that takes a day for me. Like the whole trailer.
Good Lord.
And like this is like, I understand it from the perspective of like this game will not be more finished if I work on this trailer. Like the actual game part, like the trailer will just exist on YouTube, and the game people download onto Steam. Like people won't know the trailer exists unless, you know, it's on the store page, which it will be. But still, it's like you're laying out the carpet, or you're presenting part of yourself or your studio in this way through the trailer.
Yeah.
In my view. So like it's like you're running a fine dining restaurant, and you're you imagine like the Bear or something like that, and like you're making all these sketches, like, oh, this ingredient, this thing, and we'll get it from this source, and it's like, ooh, where are plates? Someone go to CVS, get us some plates.
Yeah.
And it's like, what are you doing? Which I know what you're doing, and trailer editors are expensive, and they take time, but I think it's very important. Obviously, I'm going to say that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's true. Like whether or not you can afford to get a trailer editor, there's always like the baseline stuff that you can keep in mind.
Yeah, I did a survey recently. Because I'm doing a talk in Norway next month about working with trailer editors, and I'm just curious I wanted to know people's reasons for not hiring a trailer editor. And most of it was just, we can't afford it. But I also left an open question for people who's curious about the process. And most people, not most people, one of the most common questions or comments that I saw were people who just thought that working with a trailer editor would actually be a lot of work for the developers. Like, oh, we'll have to capture footage for them. And which I think it's the fault of the job title of trailer editor. It sounds like we only edit, which if it were more accurate, it would be like trailer editor, capture artist, director, script writer, producer, sound designer, like all those things. Because like the only time I usually ask for developers to help me with footage is if maybe something needs to be done in engine. Like it's easier for them to just like make something in Unity really quick than to make another build for me to capture from. Or if the game has like a really high skill ceiling. So I worked on the announced trailer for Sifu, and I'm not good at that game.
Oh boy.
So I'm like, wait, just send me footage.
Wow.
And I'll direct to some degree. Like, can you get me a shot where they're doing this combo or something like that in this context? But usually when people come to me, which not everyone works this way necessarily, but they'll just come to me and say, hey, we don't know what we're doing. Help. And I'll go, okay, I got it. And I'll say like, okay, well, what are the key pillars of your game? What's important about the game to you? When is the game coming out? So I can figure out like the cadence of what we're showing within each trailer. Even if I'm not working on the whole campaign, I want to know like how much should I show so I don't like burn out all the good stuff in the first trailer that I make. And I'll ask like, where is this showing? Is this going to be at online festival event, like a showcase like Wholesome, or is this going to be just on the store page? And of course, then I'll play the game and I'll figure out, okay, what do we show? What's the least amount that we can show to cover all those beats there?
Yeah.
The only time, I don't take projects generally where I don't do any of the capture, but I know certainly some trailer editors will quote something lower if they're only going to do editing. But even then, they're still going to have creative feedback about the story structure and what the shots should be, and more than just like editing. Like, we're not just putting together a puzzle as much as we use that metaphor. A puzzle you get in the box, it has very particular ways to put it together, and that's what you do. And every single person who does that puzzle will do it the exact same way.
There's a predetermined solution.
Yeah. But for an editor, in film, they say it's the third time that you write the movie. The first time you write is when you write it. Second time is when you shoot it. Third time is when you edit it. So
I haven't heard that. I like that.
I think I'm quoting that correctly.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because like also when you talk about like asking those questions, like what are the pillars of what your game is about? Like I've done drop-in friendly consulting for friends who are trying to cut their trailers for their games for the first time, and it is terrifying when you get to that. Like, have you had people just not know how to answer that question when you ask it yet, and like not had that?
Oh yeah. I've been on calls with people, and I'll just say like, so tell me about your game, or I'm trying to remember exactly the question I asked one time. I said something like, so what is your game about? And they just said, oh, that's a good question. And I'm like, you should work on that first. Call me back later.
It's so easy to like fall into that.
Which is why I did a talk at GDC, not this one, the one previous, about using the lens of a trailer to think about your game pitch or your prototype. Not to say, and then of course the comments are like, you're just telling me you should make trailers for games that don't exist and release them? That's such a BS AAA. I'm like, you don't have to put it out. Just for you. Make a trailer. Like, try to think about what a trailer for your game would look like, just to help your development, get you all united. This North Star, where are we aiming? And you can change that later on, but like, it's a good exercise. So that's why I did a whole talk about that.
Yeah. Because like it forces you to answer a lot of the questions that are going to matter the most to the people you're trying to sell the fucking game to.
It allows you to focus in too, right? I mean, like deciding what to include is also deciding what not to include.
Yes. I the text of my talk that I've been working on, so I have some stuff like handy that like fits into this conversation.
Okay.
Like here, I wrote a list of I broke down Skin Deep into like sort of 3 tiers. So I already told you about like the pillars of Skin Deep, which is like Die Hard in space, immersive sim, campy, silly, spoken dialogue. Now, let me give you the list of things that these are like the like anchors of the game. That's Chris Zukowski's term for just things that are the things in games that are familiar from other games that you've played. So like, okay, it's a first-person shooter. You can peek around corners. There are enemies to fight. There are health bars and inventory. There are locked doors and keys. There's throwable objects. There's vents you can go into. There's guns and ammunition and grenades. There's a map screen. There's pickpocketing. You can open lockers to get stuff. You can break things. There's alarms when you're discovered. There's cutscenes. There's stealth. There's like a one last job sort of story in there, and there's flushable toilets. If I say that, you won't necessarily get skin deep. And like it'd be really hard to get that. But then
that's a laundry list.
Yeah. And a lot of trailers spend a lot of time in only that territory. And a lot of it, I find, is because people are afraid of showing the special thing. Like, oh, but this is the new thing that, and like, that's what you gotta lead with once you have like a basic understanding of the genre you're in, because that's the whole point.
Right. Do you think that just comes from like fear of, it's like, obviously the thing that is unique is what makes the game special.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I can imagine that a lot of people will be afraid to focus on that because that's the thing that's unproven.
Yes.
That's not a safe bet like everything else that we've seen other games do, and that people are, gamers like the open world or whatever else.
There was, I did a talk for Game Devs of Color where it was like top 10 mistakes in trailers. And one of them was like too insecure, which is what you're describing. It's like, oh, this is the new thing.
Yeah.
Why don't I just show the parts that look exactly like Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past?
Was company logo on screen for 20 seconds before gameplay appearing?
That was like number one. And then one of the other ones was like too secure, because sometimes there are trailers where maybe the trailer, it's like a lore heavy trailer, where it's the backstory. It's basically feels like the opening of Lord of the Rings, or it feels like a From Software game, which unless you're From Software, people don't really give a shit.
Yeah.
So in those cases, it's like you're too confident in everything that isn't your hook, which is why you're leading with those things. And I'm telling you, oh my God, get to the point, please. Like the analogy I give is years ago, I did like a little bit of stand-up comedy where I go to open mics, you go to a bar, you buy a drink or something, and they give you like 3 minutes to test your material on other stand-up comics, where best case scenario, you tell a joke and someone goes, like, that's best case scenario. That's like, ooh, that's a banger. That'll get us.
Yeah.
But like in a stand-up comedy context, you gotta just tell a joke at the very beginning. If I get up on stage and say, hey everyone, my name's Derek Liu, I'm from Boston, my parents are from Taiwan, and I grew up in Newton, Massachusetts.
Yeah, you've already
I moved to New York when I was 18. And there are comics who start that way, and there are game trailers that start with that, the game trailer equivalent of that, which a lot of times is backstory and lore, rather than what we want, which is gameplay. Just a little bit of gameplay so we can understand, because
or God forbid 20 seconds of logos.
It can be 4 seconds and it fucks you. It's like for listeners, Derek made a motion with his hand like he had a migraine.
There's a game, I forget what the game is called, but the studio's called You Gotta Build a Rocket Boy. Mm-hmm. And when that logo came up, I'm like, ooh, you got to build a rocket boy. It's a game about building rocket boys, and it's about cars. I'm like, oh, it's the studio logo.
What?
The sleight of hand.
Oh, so I was talking about skin deep pillars. So then the other list I have, which like these are the more hooky bits, but they're not necessarily the pillars. These are bits that like if you talk about them, it's more likely you're only talking about skin deep. We have, you can stun enemies by puncturing electrical pipes. The guns are very tactile. You have to like manually check the chamber and rack the rounds when you're using shotgun. You can flush the enemies out of air vents. You can break the windows to make the enemies and yourself just shoot out into space. You can use your walkie-talkies to end a alert, sort of like Han Solo in Star Wars, where he's like, situation normal. Like that's basically the game mechanic.
Yeah.
You have an automatic heart defibrillator that works one time per level. There's a mech you can pilot. You can get glass stuck in your feet, which has to be removed by hand, otherwise you'll take damage. Guards can slip on banana peels, and you then jump on their backs and slam them into things. And then the spaceships are like contiguous spaces that you can explore inside and out. So those, not as sort of tropey or anchory as the first list I gave you, but, much more hooky. But even that still has to fit in the lens of this bigger idea of like Die Hard in space and how that all comes together into an experience rather than a list of features.
Yeah.
I completely
like a mood piece, something that you come away having some kind of emotional experience with.
Hopefully,
ideally.
So with all of this in mind, so you've said before that there's no like right thing for a trailer to be. Like a trailer can be one shot. Mm-hmm. Would you mind doing a quick trailer review of this, and we'll put the audio in for the listeners to wrap this up?
I was just looking at this before the call.
Oh no. I was hoping to spring it on you.
Yeah. No, I'll rewatch it just a second.
The house feels broken.
And for listener context, I played the shitpost video associated with the little Fidget Physics desktop sand toy I released. You have a camera that's locked onto me bug-eyed from my forehead as I ignore this poor weeping soul because I'm too busy fucking with my little desktop sand toy. It is 25 seconds long and designed to be as uncomfortable as humanly possible.
Wait, what?
What a psychotic thing to end up on.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
So I'm glad that your title has a subtitle underneath it, which says a desktop sand toy, because there's a lot of ways this could have gone. Truly, I haven't played Hypnospace Outlaw, but there are a lot of games which have like a desktop, Emily is Away. I was trying to think of some other ones. Sybil, I think, by Nina Freeman. I think that also has like desktop and like files that you go through. Mm-hmm. So for me, what I'm looking for is which is the actual game part. And, for all I know in this game, like you are in the game in this top hand corner thing. That's part of the story. Like we're seeing a vignette maybe of this thing. Whereas it looks like based off the title card that it's just a little fidgety sand thing. Yeah. And everything else is just the context that it's being used in. So, after I get to the title card, if I get that far, no offense, people don't make it to the end of trailers. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah. Then, they wouldn't know that. They could just be like, oh, this is, even though you have in your caption, like trying to make best sounding game trailer. Like when I first saw that the caption, which is I'm trying to make the best sounding game trailer of all time, I think it got pretty close. What I was looking for was, I thought maybe you were like, it was going to be a video of you screen sharing while you were editing, or like the actual process of working on the sound. Yeah. So I was trying to figure out the trailer for the entire time until the title came up. Like, oh, it's a sand playing thing. Yeah. Okay. Then I got it. Yeah. So from that perspective, it's not very successful.
Yeah, no, it's not going to surprise you to find out this didn't sell many copies.
I think my friend Owen Trett, he did a trailer for, was it Rusty's? It's like a idle farming game that lives on like the bottom of your window of your desktop.
Oh right, yeah.
I remember that one being good and having a similar sort of like space, I think. Yeah. Where it's like, here's this thing that you're playing, but like your desktop is still open while you're playing it. Yeah. So I can see a version that would help people understand what the thing is and just be clearer. Yeah. Yeah. This is fine for social media, but I wouldn't put it in your store page.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll take it off real quick. I'm just no. No, but yeah.
And also because you talked about sound in your post too. So then I was looking at the sound or listening to the sound. So you were like directing me in all these different ways that weren't going to help me understand what your game is.
Yeah. 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 No. Yeah. This was posted at the end of a very late night. That went through the next day, and all that was going through my head was this was pretty funny, and I gotta make sure people turn the sound on so I can make them visceral uncomfortable and they click off before getting to the end. But yeah, well, thank you so much for coming on down. I think we have to freeze over the ice that we've broken.
Hey Sam, if I can just wrap up here. The URL still isn't working on my end. I don't know if you know about that.
That's fine. I've learned to let things go, Julian.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be another piece of advice, is make sure that the URL at the end of your trailer works in the future. But yeah,
actually,
thank you.
That's I'll give you this one Half-Life Alyx story.
Okay.
So trailer's done, 6 weeks. And it's going live. I think they're like composing the tweet or whatever. It's all going up. Here's the website. They've been working on the website. Looks beautiful. And I think like they hit send or whatever. And then someone, I think it was me actually. I said, it was either like, did someone set the trailer to public? And then someone goes, oh shit.
Oh no.
And then if you watch, I think it was Giant Bomb. They were clicking on a link, and I think the temp link was like Dota 2 or something. Right. Until it was fixed, and then it was Half-Life Alyx.
Oh my god.
Wow. Wow.
So cool. Even when games are big budget, enormous companies. It's still made by people.
Yeah. Oh man, it makes me feel better.
Fuck AI.
But thank you so much again for coming on. It's been absolutely goddamn wonderful.
Thank you.
I will remind everyone listening that if you're curious, we will have all the links for Derek's stuff in the description. If you want to learn more about trailer editing or see any of the stuff he did, go and support him because he's been very generous with his time, or I will kill you. What a great episode. Patreon question time. Big Ugly Jordan asks, hello finalists. If you were forbidden from doing anything creative or media related as a job, what would you pick as your new career?
Can I kill myself?
I don't think so. I don't know if you get paid for that. I really like libraries. I've said it before and I'll say it again.
You have said this before.
This is the I just want to help out. I just want to help out where the books are, and I want to stay in after dark when all the books come to life.
So you can eat
and
the
they
books.
Start attacking you. Yes.
Sam's libraries are Sam's fallback. If ever
because I like so much of my
exit plan.
Yeah, like genuinely so much of the most pivotal moments of my teenage years before I ended up going back to school were just like I had to do a lot of shit in libraries. So that's home. That's coming home for me. I realize now, hearing myself say that out loud, how sad that must sound.
It doesn't sound sad. You just sound like you have big front teeth and big glasses.
Well, my glasses are normal size.
The locker beckons.
No, yeah. But no, like there was a whole fucking thing where I had to like cram 2 years of high school in like a few months. There was a whole thing that happened. But
Sounds horrible.
There's a story there.
Another
Patreon question.
That sounded patronizing, but I just mean it. I would cry. It's fucking yeah. As for me, maybe this speaks to the larger existential problems that I have been grappling with personally as of late, but I really like the idea of working for a nonprofit of some kind. I'd like to do something good, I think. Generally looking for something where I don't feel depressed by the end of the day.
It does bring you closer to a lot of the problems, but you also you generally still don't feel depressed at the end of the day because you've done something.
I reckon it very much depends on the job you're doing and the organization you work for.
And
I'm sure listeners will have comments on this.
Yes, and I will say my annoying thing with anyone can start today.
I'll get to it. I want to. I'll get to it, man. I'll get to it. Get off my fucking back.
Ending the episode there. No.
That would be good. That would be a good place to end it.
This is an interesting one. Grant Paulson asks, what stage of working on a project do you find the most enjoyable? The beginning, the middle, or the end?
That is a good question. It's a good question is because earlier in my creative journey, I feel like the answer would have been the same every time, but nowadays I throw myself enough varied challenges that you're going to get a different answer depending on the fucking direction of the wind today. Yeah. I feel like every creative's going to have their own answer to this one. That's a strangely personal question when I think about it.
It's personal and project by project. For some reason, I'm oscillating mostly, like when I think about the stuff that I've done, I'm oscillating between on a project that's like a large enough size that it wasn't just like a 2-day cave expedition. I oscillate between like beginning and middle for some reason and not the end.
Yeah.
Is that where you're at too, or is that different?
Yeah, I'm definitely not with you on that.
Interesting.
I mean, it really depends on the project.
What's wrong with you?
I mean, it used to be that my favorite parts were starting before the work actually started, the ideation process, getting excited about the thing, and the ending because it was catharsis and I wasn't going to slave away at it anymore. It was out of my fucking life. That's how most things were for a very long time.
Right.
So long that I'm surprised I persevered through the very long middle for the things I worked on. Nowadays, though, I still think starting projects are my favorite part. I love getting excited for things.
Don't we all? Amen.
Really deep stuff here today.
No, it's true though.
But as for the, maybe it's just because I'm in the rhythm of creativity more now. But closing projects, I'm kind of indifferent to. There's a little ego boost every time I put something out and people like it. But for the most part, it's not as fulfilling as like starting and working with others on a project. The parts I really care about these days are just like the ideation and collaboration with other people.
Yeah. I think the middle is harder to enjoy if it's just you alone, because so much of what you're doing is just, But like the minute that you're working with other people, that's where all the fun stories happen. And when it's miserable with other people that you hopefully generally like. Exactly.
You know, I think I'm realizing in real time the reason that for that shift, and it really is just that like, in order for me to keep being creative, I had to stop torturing myself through the process. And what I realized about myself is that I just don't like working alone on things for too long.
Yeah.
And so I'm co-writing basically everything I make now. I'm taking steps to try to include people, both hiring and just working together with people anywhere I can, because that's what gets me motivated to keep working on it. And the more motivated I am, the more efficient and the better I am at what I do.
Yeah. It's like you're no longer saving the connecting with people part for the end.
Right. And you still get to do that, right? Because the finished product, it's not like you're working with everybody you know every time you make something. So for those who follow my work and who I haven't included in a given project, there's still the gratification that comes from them reacting to it after the fact.
Yeah.
I was especially pleased by Mandy's reaction of the MagFest video, for instance.
Oh shit, what did he think?
I mean, he didn't have a ton to say. He just like, let me pull it up, actually.
Yeah.
I'm leaking DMs live on Final V3.
Holy shit, let's go.
I sent it to him. I simply said, it's finally done. A day or two later, he responds, Jesus Christ, what a ride. Hearing the crowd was one thing, but seeing the levels of complete confusion is another. The way other people just getting hyped just switches others to being on board.
Yeah.
I like reactions like that because it's not a cohesive view of the video, but it tells you about the parts that surprised him personally the most, which I kind of like more sometimes.
Yeah. No, that's really sick.
It's also not the response I would have expected from him because, you know, he's the grandfather of the gaslight. So, like, for him to be reacting to an entirely different part of the video is interesting to me.
Yeah.
I could armchair psychoanalyze Mandy here, but I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I think that is an interesting answer. And I largely agree.
You haven't really expanded on yours, though.
Yeah. When I say that I oscillate between the beginning and the middle, I also really dig the part of the project where you're, you know, it's all the possibilities are open and you're being like maybe a little bit purposely naive to like what you can actually do and get your hands on. And I like the middle. We love that. Yeah. And I like the middle because also like the puzzle solving of figuring out, okay, I can't actually do all of this stuff. What is this thing actually about? What is the common thread? And how do I focus in on only the stuff that really supports that versus, you know, just the jazz that I'm excited about around it.
It is crazy how much I agree with you exclusively as long as I'm not doing that on my own.
Yeah. Because and I have the same thing because a lot of my projects right now also involve other people more. The favorite moments that I've had on those are the ones where we all just fucking hit on something at the same time and we just get to follow it.
Where you both have ideas that build on each other, and eventually it's no one person's idea anymore. It is y'all's idea collectively.
Yeah, it's so fucking fun. And even the nightmare hours are like you have social support. You're doing a difficult thing, and you have other people around. Mm-hmm. And at the very end of the project, I feel like that's where I start to feel a little bit more, what the fuck do I even do next after this is done? Because I'm also so used to, at that point to working on a project that is mostly done, because the ending section of a project is just iteration on a thing that exists, that sometimes I've like felt a little bit disconnected from what even was it like to work on this when it was nothing. I used
to get that a lot with videos. Ironically enough, I don't think this is correlated, but I stopped feeling that around the same time that I stopped hating the process so much.
Yeah.
It's just part of the creative journey. I found that the best antidote for that was already having something else lined up, keeping on the treadmill.
Which brings me back to the beginning and middle.
Yeah, if you're on this evil ass journey and it gets really rough by the end, and you don't have anything else lined up, then obviously, yeah, you've built up a rhythm of working on a thing for so long that it can be a shock to the system to have to adjust back to not having that urgency in your life. But if you've got something else you can immediately productively redirect it towards, then it isn't so hard to cope anymore. You can just keep on it and slowly work your way back down to something a little maybe healthier.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't enjoy too much the feeling of like sitting back and having a thing that I've made. I very rarely will go back and rewatch a thing that I made because the point of making it was to do all of the stuff making it that I really enjoyed, to find out what it was. And then like the having it is for other people if they care. And if they don't, that's fine. I liked it.
I like that view.
Yeah.
Funny enough, I found that there is an exception for me to that, and it's when I'm inebriated.
Okay.
If I get stoned enough, I'll pull up a video of mine and I'll be like, "Damn, this is pretty good."
Right. I like that. That you're giving yourself some chemical distance.
Yeah, I mean, that is pretty much what it is. It's that, like, I mean, two things happen. Firstly, I become very easy to entertain. I just am in a very good mood. And secondly, my memory of my work fades. And so I will surprise myself because I no longer know what to expect because I'm not actively thinking about what I did to get this thing in front of me.
Yeah, that's fun.
It is. I agree. I'm a narcissist.
And as usual, we're going to end off with a special thanks to all of our $14 tier patrons. Thank you so much, Wibbs, Sad Toffee Sucks, Carp, Spicy Nacho, Tom Keeley, John Purdy, Harrison Oakley, Daxtery, Commander Cyrus, Drew McIntosh, EXE Bill, Chulump the Big Money Wizard, Samuel Danver Platts, OJ McMuffins, Leon Kive, Holly Buxa, Wormy, TJ, Lucky the Proto, Combustible Mon, The Darkened Rose, Denji, Trading Bark, Mark D. Hero, Woody the Entertainer, Tobin, Never Dreams, Nessie, and Cosmo. Thank you so much for supporting the show. If you want to add your name to the list, go to finalv3.zip. That's a website, not a zip bomb. Finalv3.zip. Bye, everyone.